next story, brace yourself, because there's a lot to be said. You know, Cornel West running for president, Green Party, he has received a lot of criticism from people because he's not running the Democratic Party. But even if he were to run through the Democratic Party, they'd still criticize him the same way they are RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson and telling them get out the way and just give it to Biden. So I call BS on all of that. But Cornel West is anti-war, anti-imperialist, and he's been very vocal about that. Recently, he tweeted something, and there's a gentleman by the name of Keith Olbermann who decided to come at Cornel West, and we're going to get into that in just a second. So Dr. West tweeted, "Let us not be deceived. NATO is an expanding instrument of the U.S. global power that provoked Russia into a criminal invasion and occupation of Ukraine." So first and foremost, where's the lie? He goes on to say, this proxy war between the American empire and the Russian Federation could lead to World War III. Correct again. We must stop the war and war crimes, including cluster bombs used by all parties, and embark on diplomatic talks that should lead to a just peace. As the great W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in 1945, I seem to see outlined a third world war based on the suppression of Asia and the strangling of Russia. The Democratic Party is a party of war and Wall Street targeting Russia and China. Again, where's the lie? And he finishes with this. Let us save our democracy and world by dismantling U.S. militarism at home, as in cop cities, and abroad, as Martin Luther King Jr. painfully reminded us. This tweet received 4.8 million views. It got over 23,000 likes. Okay. So that is just Cornel West doing his thing, minding his own business. In comes Keith. Now, before we get into this, I need to tell you who Keith Olbermann is. Keith Olbermann, he was a former MSNBC commentator, go figure. He was also a sports commentator at one point. He's very much Team Biden. He's been very nasty on Twitter, particularly to Black people on Twitter. And we're going to get into all of that. But Keith is for the status quo. So he decided to respond to that tweet from Dr. West and said, fuck off. Now, what about Dr. West's tweet triggered him so much? What about it, guys? Here is Dr. West telling you we need to call for peace. And his response is, fuck off. Rude, arrogant, nasty. He went on to say he undone his entire career by getting manipulated into helping Trump. He can completely fuck off. You too. Now that's him responding to Chris, who said such a nice guy here. Now, Chris said that in reference to Keith. Chris was being sarcastic, of course. And he goes on to say he's undone his entire career by getting manipulated into helping Trump. He can completely fuck off. You too. So let's talk about something for a second. This is Keith Olbermann telling you that apparently he doesn't seem to think that Dr. West is intelligent enough to not allow himself to become manipulated. Keith doesn't want to stop and do the research for himself because he's been an MSNBC brain for too damn long. Keith doesn't want to look up what Dr. West said because he doesn't want to be proved wrong. Keith is there to keep the status quo. So since he can't dismantle what Dr. West said in reference to the war, he uses something else to fight back against him and says he's manipulated into helping Trump. In other words, he tries to smear Dr. West as being right wing. This is exactly what people do when they can't refute your argument. These status quo liberals, they smear you as being right wing. This comment has nothing to do with what Dr. West said. And for the people who will come and say, well, Trump doesn't think the war should happen. A lot of people don't think the war should happen. Not just Donald Trump. Jill Stein doesn't think the war should happen. Medea Benjamin, who is a Democrat, by the way, doesn't think the war should happen. She protests against wars for years and heavily against this one. But this is Keith showing his whole ass. The arrogance of this man. He's angry because Dr. West is running as a third party candidate. That's what this is really about. It has nothing to do with what Dr. West said about that war. So I had some things to say to Keith. So I had to tell him, get off the plantation, Keith. This is the second time I've seen you disrespect Black people on this site. You're the white moderate MLK warned us about. And I'm going to go into detail and explain to you how that is. I went on to say more because I was lit last night. Like after that, I said, oh no, we're going all in. So I retweeted and I said, witness Keith Olbermann's disrespect for Cornel West. It is the same disrespect he had for the Black female college basketball player. That's Angel Reese. Keith is the white moderate MLK warned you about. When Black people don't get in line, he loses it. He's still on the plantation. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by that. Keith's still on the plantation. You see, Keith, he's one of like the white liberals that they support the Democratic Party and they want Black people to believe that they're your friend and they support you too. They're the same ones that'll have a Black Lives Matter sign in their yard or their window of their apartment, his penthouse apartment in Manhattan. They're all for you and support you as long as you do what they want you to do. The moment you step out of line, they don't want to support you either. They will even go as far as to smear you. The moment you decide to use a different strategy, they're like, the hell with you. How dare you do what I didn't tell you to do? Cocky white liberals like Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann. And I've seen a lot of them here in Massachusetts. I'm keeping it real. A lot of them. Black Lives Matter sign in the window of their apartment, front lawn of the house. They support your Black lives. But as soon as you move into their neighborhood, they want you gone. They'll be the first ones to call the police when they see you walking around their neighborhood. That's the Keith Olbermann liberals. Keith Olbermann will tell you that that's MAGA. Nah, that's people like him. The ones who smile in your face. The ones who sit up there and tell you, I voted for Obama twice. Those liberals. Those are the ones you really need to be worried about. They're totally fine with you until you try to change the status quo. Then they see you as a problem. Let's go on. I went on to say, because Keith got it. I had to get into Keith last night. Keith wears the typical I'm smart white liberal, so listen to me, black rimmed glasses. You ever notice this? The same ones who tell you this shit. Him, Rachel Maddow, Sam Cedar, what they all got in common? Let me put on the black rimmed glasses. I'm here, the great white savior, to help out the poor black folks in the hood. Just don't come into my neighborhood, though. Every time. Every time. I voted for Obama twice. Went on to say, claims he cares about social rights. But Keith and many like him will kick you out and gentrify your neighborhood. This is why the white moderate is dangerous. And this is a fact. And I've seen it. Not only will they kick you out of your own neighborhood, okay, they'll gentrify your neighborhood. And the few black people who are left for the time being, they'll have the nerve to question you and ask you what you're doing on that block. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Is there a reason you're on the street? Go back into the apartment and pick up the phone and call the cops. They're the Amy Coopers. The Amy Cooper who called the cops on the black guy who was bird watching in Central Park. Hillary Clinton voter. Those are the ones you need to worry about. The ones who tell you, let's go to get together and go do yoga, and then we can go have a spa day, and it's all on me. And don't you dare worry about paying me back. This is all on me. Your people go through so much. Those kind of liberals, damn it. And yes, I've heard people say shit like that to me. All the assumptions, the gall, the audacity. Let me go help out Jamal in Roxbury. Let me go back to Newton and tell all the rich white women how I helped out the poor black kid in Roxbury. The moment the schools in Newton say, let's start busing some of the kids from Roxbury to Newton so they can have a decent education. Well, how many of them do you want here? We don't want too many. Okay, maybe one or two, but any more than that is a gain. Those white liberals, damn it. I'm calling them all out. The Harvard professors who say they want diversity so much. The white liberal Harvard professors who want diversity so much and single out the one black kid in the class every time a subject comes up about black people. Well, Sabrina, what do you think about that? Everybody turn and look at you. Those white liberals. That's Keith Olbermann. Now, I went on to say, let's remember what he said to Angel Reese. There's a pattern here. And you guys remember this? When he said to her, what an effing idiot. Not knowing the background of the story. For those who were not aware, this was during that championship game between LSU and Iowa. The LSU team was pretty much all black team. The Iowa team, pretty much all white team. And Keith Olbermann jumped into something that he didn't know the backstory about, not realizing that both teams were talking trash to each other. That's a part of the game. Now, this is someone who's was a sports commentator, and he don't understand this. I played basketball, okay? Off the court, everybody was cool. On the court, I am not your friend. And we all trash talked. He was upset because Angel Reese said, you see me? Not realizing that Caitlin Clark did the same thing to her. But he didn't call out Caitlin. He called out Angel. Because here we are again, Keith Olbermann thinking, okay, these girls are playing a good game, but she's not staying in line. She's not staying in her lane. How dare she act and behave that way? Look how he disrespected her. Oh, but don't worry. Other people got in this. Shaq called him out. A lot of people had Angel Reese's back. But the point is that Keith did not learn anything from that lesson. If he did, he wouldn't have come after Cornel West the way that he did. So what gives people like Keith this idea to think that they can just talk to people like this way? Because he's still on the damn plantation. He don't have on a MAGA hat. He don't have a Confederate flag hanging from his truck. You see, when you see those types of symbols, when people tell you to your face, and I live down south, so I know, people will tell you to your face, they'll let you know if they're not really trying to mess with black people like that, boo. White liberals different though. White liberals smile all cheek in your face. Call the cops on you behind your back and then run and hide. Think that they can talk to you any kind of way. Keith Olbermann still thinks he's massa. And he thinks that Dr. West need to get in line. That's the problem with people like Keith. And it's always a certain type. The PMC white liberals. Same ones I just told you about in Newton that don't want too many of those black kids coming to their schools. They feel they can disrespect you anytime. The moment you disagree, you're not in line, you're not living the way that they think that you should live, or you're not following the strategy they think that you should follow. They think they can disrespect you anytime. But the moment that you disrespect them, you're a problem. You're a thug. You need to be handled. You're a disciplinary issue. People like Keith Olbermann don't make the world a better place. People like Keith Olbermann actually make things worse because people like him actually give some black people in this country the idea that there is this type of solidarity from white liberals, only to then be turned around and stabbed in the back. Max Blumenthal called out Keith Olbermann years ago. This is from 2016. So Max said, from a basement studio, Keith Olbermann denounces Russian scum and the traitors who ignore his tirades. Welcome to the hashtag resistance. Listen to this.
The nation and all of our freedoms hang by a thread, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to scum, who are beholden to scum, Russian scum. As things are today, January 20th will not be an inauguration, but rather the end of the United States as an independent country. It will not be a peaceful change of power. It will be a usurpation, and the usurper has no validity, no credibility, and no authority under the Constitution. This is a reality that will become the only reality until this country rids itself of Donald John Trump. He is not a president. He is a puppet put in power by Vladimir Putin. And those who ignore...
You know what's funny about this? He can admit Donald Trump is a puppet, but he can't admit that Joe Biden is also a puppet owned by corporations.
Puppet put in power by Vladimir Putin. And those who ignore these elemental existential facts, Democrats or Republicans, are traitors to this country and will immediately and forever after be held accountable. Resist. Peace.
Dude was a freaking Russiagator. Completely got it wrong. Dude was a freaking Russiagator. Look at how stupid he looks. What the hell is this? Back says the anti-fascist resistance brought to you by Gentleman's Quarterly, GQ. They put this fool on the cover of the damn magazine. Do you see this? What the hell is this? How is the American flag making you resist, boo? What is this? Keith wants to protect the status quo. Keith is the white moderate that MLK warned you about. And I'm going to remind you of what MLK said. then you'll see how it applies to people like Keith. Listen to this.
First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate.
Everybody heard that? Now, this is the letter from Birmingham jail. This is the piece about white moderates. So let's apply that to today, how people like Keith Olbermann want to insert like people like MAGA, right? If MLK was alive today, what would MLK tell you? Actually, the greatest threat is the white moderate. Let's continue.
Who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice.
The white moderate prefers order. And see, Cornel West is not following order, according to Keith Olbermann. He's stepping outside the lane. Moderates don't like that.
Who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action. Who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom.
Setting the timetable for another man's freedom. Now's not the time, guys. Yes, I know we need health care for everyone, but not right now. Now's not the time for a third party. Now's not the time for someone like Cornel West to run third party. We have to stop Trump. Next election cycle, do it then. It's never the time. Have you noticed that?
Who lives by a mythical concept of time and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season.
Listen to me, black man. I'm wearing black rimmed glasses, damn it. Listen to me and wait for the next time.
Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow to social progress.
Block the flow to social progress. No, guys, don't get out in the street. Not the time. No. Don't protest against this. Don't protest against that. It's okay to do it when Trump's in office, when Joe Biden's in office, and some of these things are still happening. No, don't do that. We need to support the Democratic Party. Otherwise, we're going to end up getting Donald Trump. Don't you do it.
I had hoped that white moderates would understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary phase of the transition from an obnoxious negative peace in which the Negro passively accepted his unjust plight to a substantive and positive peace in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension.
And Cornel West running third party is non-violent. But the way that Keith Olbermann speaks about it, and there's been multiple tweets of his, he speaks about it as though it is a violent action against the Democratic Party. It doesn't matter. Even when you're non-violent and when you're stepping out of line and you don't follow the status quo, they have issue.
We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open where it can be seen and dealt with, like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, but must be open with all its ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light. Injustice must be exposed with all the tension its exposure creates to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion before it can be cured. To the message.
So that is a longer speech. I don't know if you guys have actually heard the entire speech, but if you haven't, you should. But that's letter from Birmingham jail. And that's often the phrase that people will refer to when they say MLK and the white moderate, because that is very important for people to hear and understand. And what you have to understand as well, Keith is a lost cause. I don't think he's trying to understand anything in reference to this. But what you have to understand as well is that some of the same people who shake your hand, they carry your signs, they let you think that they're there for you and they're part of the cause. Behind your back, they're just snakes. And the moment you start to move in a way that they don't like, that's how they do you. What he did to Dr. West. And he's not the only one, but he's an arrogant white liberal. He's a moderate. And this is how they get when you don't do what they want you to do. No respect. Let's be real. Who's been out there fighting for the people? Dr. West has decades history, protesting, marching with people, getting arrested, fighting for civil rights and rights for people in this country. Keith Olbermann, what has he done? And he's going to have the audacity to tell Dr. West, no, you're not doing this the right way. You see how cocky they can be? It's a mess. It's a mess. I'm going to go to some of the comments and then I'll be ready for part 2, Eric. Thank you for the super chat, CC. Love begone corruption. Ashura says Olbermann thought his tweet would do better than Cornel West. Yeah, man, that was not good for him. JB says the get out liberals. Yes, the ones who tell you I voted for Obama twice. I'm not racist. I'm not racist. I have a black friend. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. They'll also be first to move out. Also, Second Amendment term limits, 22nd term limits, 22nd Amendment term. I don't know what that says, but thank you, Roger. Thank you for the super chat, Battle Elf. Know your enemy. Thank you for the super chat, Mikey. Hashtag Cornel West 2024. Thank you for becoming a member, Zero Joshua. Whoop, whoop. And thank you, Cup of Joy. Roe talks out both sides of his mouth. Cornel West is the only unapologetic truth teller running for president. Bernie never addressed half of what Cornel does. Much respect, Dr. West. Thank you, Cup of Joy. Interesting times that we live in, but it just goes to show you that some things haven't really changed all that much, right?